Hello students, welcome to my lecture. In the last lecture, I was talking about how the interpretations have three categories. Right? There are three categories of interpretations which we associate with the waiting for Godot and the play waiting for Godot. And these three aspects are, as you can see from the presentation, that these three aspects are like this: the play as a Christian allegory. So one critical school would focus on the play as a Christian allegory. Another would explore the existential theme, the existential crisis which the play tries to highlight or supposedly highlights. The third category goes a bit in a different route from the other two, because it posits the play as a play of unknowingness. Right? So we will try to understand that. Now, think of the early reviews of Waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot has a sustained metaphor, and this play was primarily interpreted as having a metaphor about human nature, human life, and this was notably a metaphor which made a particular appeal to the mood of liberal uncertainty which was prevailing, which was the prevailing mood of modern Western Europe in the 1950s. So, what was this uncertainty? Now, if you have watched my lectures on postmodernism, you would realize that this mood of uncertainty, this mood of liberal uncertainty, was quite prevalent in the 1950s because of the world wars have taken place, because of the very fact that several empires are, the British Empire is crumbling, and several other empires have also crumbled. Yeah, they are losing their grips from their former colonies, and then there are bombings happening, there are wars going on all over Europe, and these wars are extremely dangerous, unprecedented wars. And watch my video on the First World War and modernism, and then you will find that there is a rise of totalitarian regimes. We have seen how the Stalinist regime have functioned, and instead of the giving a kind of revolutionary idea of society, and instead of continuing that, initially it gave, read Animal Farm by George Orwell, you would realize this, that how the Stalinist regime became very, very autocratic, very, very hegemonic. And on the other hand, we have Mussolini, we have Hitler, right? And they would continuously persecute the innumerable people, and this created this uncertainty, this created this sense of doubt, sense of not being in control all over Europe. And this is what I mean by the mood of liberal uncertainty prevailing in the mid 20th century Western Europe. And more concretely, however, the play is a modern morality play on permanent Christian themes. As you can see that there are two characters in the play, Vladimir and Estragon, though they don't call themselves Vladimir and Estragon. In the dialogues, you would find that these two names are written. They call themselves Gogo and Didi, and we'll talk about these things later. Okay, this is going to continue. And Vladimir and Estragon, in their rags, in their unhappy mood, and yet they have this persistent capacity for reflection, and they represent the fallen state of man, the fallen state of human beings. And I'm talking about the Christian fall, right? The original sin. And this also has a very, very contemplative aspect of life. So then we have Lucky and Pozo, the other two characters. And Lucky and Pozo stand for the life of practical action, erroneously adopted as an end in itself, right? So this is again another allegory which is at work. And at this moment, at different moments, depending on the action of the four men, the tree stands for the tree stands for the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of life sometimes, the cross that is borne by Christ, and when hanging is considered, the Judas tree as well. Read about the myth on Judas tree. And when we would read the play in detail, we would discuss these allegorical issues in further uh, detail. And then the stripped, unspecified location of the action suggests that in this world, no one can build an eternal city. Okay, and Didi and Gogo's ambiguous attitude towards Godot, hope, fear, despair, renewed expectation, represent the state of tension and uncertainty in which the average Christian must live in this world. So it teaches you basic Christian morality, that you have to be humble, you have to accept that, well, you are under an inscrutable authority, God, and Godot, God, both are quite similar in sound. And that's why you will find that critics, especially in the initial period after the production of the play, they thought that, well, Godot must be God, and you cannot meet God easily. So that's why there's this eternal wait for Godot. And then there is in allusion to the two thieves. Okay, so like the two thieves who were crucified with Jesus, Beckett's tramps, that is Vladimir and Estragon, or Gogo and Didi, must avoid both presumption and despair. And you will find these references in the play. When you will read the play, you will realize this. And then the play represents contemporary life in its full horror, and the audience would find it disturbing and hence try to remedy it. And this particular line of interpretation suggests that the play questions the basis of Christianity. So, should we wait for Godot or God at all? Now, this is the second aspect of interpretation that actually negates the very idea that this play is a modern allegory of the ancient Christian themes, because as for as per this school of criticism about the play becomes definitely a representation of contemporary life. And the third line of interpretation suggests that the play artistically explores something hitherto almost ignored, that is the irrational state of unknowingness wherein we exist, this mental weightlessness which is beyond reason. So this is the third dimension of the play. So the first dimension talks about the Christian allegory, and there are plenty of occasions when you'll feel that, oh, probably this play is a Christian allegory. Then there is this always this existential theme, because existentialism was already in vogue in the intellectual climate of the modern period. You can expect that, yes, Beckett was trying to respond to it, and then as the existential philosophers would claim, that we have been thrown into our existence and we cannot do anything about it. This is what we have. There is nothing that we can do, and yet we would continue to struggle. We would wait for Godot eternally, and this actually entails a lot of heroism. So, as Jean-Paul Sartre would say, that you have been thrown into existence, and then you would continue your struggle. Think of Camus, myth of Sisyphus, where Sisyphus is having this task of taking the stone to the peak of a mountain, and then the moment he reaches there, the stone drops down, and again Sisyphus takes it back to the top, and Sisyphus knows that this struggle has no end, and yet he continues to do that. So our life is like that, according to Camus, that we continue our struggle, and we know that we are not going to succeed, yet we continue, and this is how we become a bit heroic. Here comes the very aspect of heroism, that you may be defeated but yet you are a hero, and this aspect you would find in modernist art primarily, by and large, and the classical modernist art, while the negation of this same heroism would be to a great extent visible in postmodernist art. Okay, and this is why how where you have to locate Beckett. He straddles both modernism and postmodernism in this sense, right? So we will discuss this, and face to face also we can do that, of course, virtually. And if you have any trouble in understanding this, and this interpretation, the third line of interpretation, where the play is thought to be an exploration of the irrational state of unknowingness wherein we exist, the mental weightlessness, which is definitely beyond reason, beyond cognizance. This is congruent with Beckett's ideology of art that we have found in the 1940s and 50s. Okay, so radical unknowingness, that Christianity is a mythology with which I am perfectly familiar, so I naturally use it. So Beckett writes in this way. So these are all quotations from Beckett's different uh, places where he talked about his ideology of art. So Christianity is a mythology with which I am perfectly familiar. So I naturally use it. So I'm not actually trying to support Christianity. I'm not trying to deny Christianity. Uh, it just comes to me naturally. So I use it. And this is a kind of similar approach when I'm talking about it. This reminds me of Church Going by Philip Larkin. Remember? You read it with me in the last semester. And there you would find this kind of approach, that he is not saying that, well, I am a hater of Christ, I am a non-Christian person, I'm an atheist, and he's also not very religious in that sense. So what he is actually having, he's being agnostic. So this is a kind of link that you can get between these two 1950s writers. And then Beckett writes, I'm not interested in any system. I can't see any trace of any system anywhere. So this is how he's going beyond the systematizations, be it Christian system, be it the existentialist system. He is trying to break the system. So he's trying to deconstruct the system, to so to speak. And if I could have expressed the subject of my work in philosophical terms, Beckett once said, I wouldn't have had any reason to write it. So I'm not here to philosophize, right? I'm producing art. I'm producing artwork, and that's why, if you think that, well, I want to express my philosophy, I would have done it in philosophical terms. I wouldn't have written it in that way, as you see. And going by this, one can say that Waiting for Godot resists systems and abstract ideas, and it probably dramatizes a state of radical unknowingness. And this is how we can say that the play contains ideas, but that no idea can contain the play. Okay, this can be a wonderful question. uh, this line can be a part of a good question, that justify this line, that Waiting for Godot contains ideas, but no idea can contain Waiting for Godot. Okay, think about it. See you in the next class.